And it's time now for World View with ABC News foreign correspondent James Longman. James, let's start in Paris, where prosecutors say they're investigating after a stabbing attack at Paris's Gare du Nord train station. We know at least 6 people are injured, plus the suspect. What's the latest?
Yeah, so Diane, this all kicked off around 6:45 this morning at Gare du Nord in Paris. Anybody who's visited the city will know that station well. It's probably the most busiest station in the whole country. He started his attack. He stabbed 6 people, we understand, with some kind of homemade weapon before he was brought down by police. More than one police officer had to open fire to bring him down. He is now in the hospital in a critical condition, as is one of his victims. And the Paris prosecutor has said that there is no motive yet at this point, but it all feeds into a wider debate they're having in Paris at the moment about security ahead of the Olympics. That is next year. At the moment, a lot of private security firms are lined up to take part in that event, but a lot of people are calling for more police and the army to be on the streets, and no doubt that'll be the debate that's being had in France at the moment.
All right, over to China now, James, where Chinese embassies have stopped issuing new visas for South Koreans and Japanese citizens. This is an apparent retaliation for COVID-19 measures those countries imposed on travelers from China. So what's the impact here, and could we see China do the same for other countries?
Well, possibly, Diane. As is often the case, it's an economic impact. We saw that during COVID itself. China had some pretty severe COVID measures, zero COVID, where entire towns and cities and factories were closed, crucially. So it had an economic impact for China, but also the rest of the world. It is in many ways the world's factory for supply lines and such. So there is a sense that, you know, this time round with the release of these sorts of COVID measures, that could also have an economic impact, because you've now got Japan and South Korea instituting these visa restrictions. We've got a whole series of countries across Europe who want to test Chinese passengers. So China is getting angrier and angrier about this situation, whilst at the same time not being particularly open about what's actually happening with COVID in the country. Of course, an enormous population, possibly more variants could emerge, and that is very dangerous for the rest of the world. So every country on earth now looking at China to see what they're going to do about this COVID surge. Dan?
And James, Prince Harry's memoir, Spare, is now the fastest-selling nonfiction book ever. I know you read it. So what stuck out to you, and how is this expected to impact the royal family and the monarchy there in the UK?
Well, I did read it, and what was quite clear very quickly was that how readable it is. You can read it very quickly because it reads less like a book and more like a stream of consciousness. It's almost like Harry is in the room talking to you. He did use a ghostwriter, and that's obvious throughout as well. But you do really hear his voice. There's a lot of anger in it, I think. He feels very angry about how he's been treated by the press. But I think the excerpts that we've seen don't really give you a full sense of the context of it. I think, for example, on his father, Charles, he's not that mean about Charles. He paints his father really as a bit of an emotionally, perhaps stunted individual who didn't quite know how to love his son, but not necessarily as the bad guy. Similarly, Camilla, he's not necessarily that negative about her. He does have quite a few barbs for Will, I think. There's certainly some unresolved tension there. But remember Diana's book, the autobiography that was written, well, the biography that was written by Andrew Morton on her behalf, and how everyone said that was going to be a great moment of change for the monarchy. Well, I think, if anything, this Meghan and Harry situation shows there hasn't really been that much change. So, yes, a lot of interest in this book. How much it's really going to change the monarchy? Wait and see.
All right. James Longman from London. We appreciate it, James. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.